Hey, I'm standing here in southwestern Pennsylvania, fall of 2024. Doing a little bit of land clearing and erosion management is essentially what this is coming down to. This piece of ground we have the good fortune of being able to manage from the mid 19th probably to the mid 20th century. This was used for agriculture. It's pretty hilly up here. The soils are thin. Wasn't really suitable for agriculture, but people do what they have to do to survive. This particular piece of ground here was an open field as far as I can tell. There's still a lot of rocks, and because of the streams that are represented here, I think this was just used for grazing. So they would have probably cleared away a lot of the larger trees and used those for construction and fence posts and all that happy stuff. But the rest of the property was completely cleared and used for cash crops and hay and rye and all those types of things. This area here, I think, was just used for animals were probably allowed down here, and they would have cleared out whatever vegetation was left, and a lot of erosion have probably occurred. There's a spring that kind of starts up there, goes down there. There's kind of a peninsula in the middle, and there's a stream on the other side that collects from a couple of smaller ephemeral streams up above. They come together there in a confluence and then head down towards the road. This whole project here comes down to just trying to slow down the water. The techniques that I'm using are kind of a aggregation of some different things that I've read over the years and different concepts. Mainly just slow the water down. I've been working on this kind of stuff in different spots in the property for a few years, just adding some coarse woody debris or doing some one rock high dams. It's pretty effective. It catches a lot of detritus, slows things down a bit. You got a lot of pooling water, and those spring rains don't and snow melt don't dislodge so much of the material and send it off the property down to the Gulf of Mexico. Got a little happy down through here. It's kind of a mess. There's a lot of extra material I wouldn't normally put down through there, but I've been really aggressive in trying to take some of the stems out here. It looks fairly open to the canopy right now. That's just because I took so much stuff out. If you look up there, the stems are really quite dense, and that's really what this looked like before. Just with all the stumps you can see here, there was quite a lot of sugar maple, cherry, red oak, white oak, some birch, not really a lot of beech down here. Definitely a good bit of tulip. That's pretty common on the whole property. These are all species that are pretty common to this area here. I like to see the diversity that does exist here, but at this point I'm just thinning out, getting rid of a lot of the extra stuff because some of this shit was just dying, just because it was so starved of light. Here's a small Juneberry tree. There's a couple of these. They don't live terribly long, but I think they're really good for birds and things of that nature. So saved a red oak there, saved a cherry, saved another red oak. Even these are a little bit denser than I might like in this spot, but I'd like to see how they grow out. That peninsula over there, that was cut out quite heavily. There's some larger trees over there. Some sugar maple is a really nice sugar maple right there. Tulip back there. It's got a lot of grapevine on it. I'm just going to leave the grapevine, let that go. I cut the grapevine out of the sugar maple. A nice red maple there that I'm going to leave has a nice big void in the side of it. It's starting to rot. The tree's starting to stress out a bit up there. Let that for wildlife and stuff. And then there's some smaller cherries down there that I'm going to end up cutting a lot of that stuff out and either use it for firewood or leave it on the ground like I did here. And the only reason I left this was because that's the stuff that I couldn't really chip. Those hardwood chips are quite useful in some different spots. I use those around smaller trees that I've planted as mulch. But a lot of this stuff, yeah, it's probably pretty easy firewood, but it's really useful right here because I can use it for some erosion control. I get a lot of water will sheet off of some of these hills, different places where it kind of collects a little bit, but it's still spread out, and it will sheet and just take all the leaves and all the topsoil and everything right down to the mineral soil and take it down into the creek, and away it goes down to the Gulf of Mexico. So that's not too suitable. So this is a technique that's used in, erosion control various states, have published documents using this over the years. It's pretty common sense. Just lay some logs across longitudinally along the contour to try to slow the water down a little bit, catch the detritus, catch the water, catch the topsoil, and kind of lock it in place. In some cases, especially steeper terrain, people use, they'll use larger logs. This is what I have, but they'll pin them down. They'll put some stakes and stuff behind them. I don't really have to do that. It's not terribly steep, and I have all the stumps. So, let the stumps kind of hold things back. Things are going to shift, things are going to move, but anything I can do to try to slow that water down and hold it back and hold all the leaves and woody material and all the dead stuff in place. The streams themselves, I've been working with putting one rock high dams and some woody debris in them for years, and it's been really quite effective. I've seen the stream beds in some spots rise over a foot, and they tend to stay a lot more moist because of the types of material that are there. I mean, there's sediments and things, but there's also a lot of leaves, a lot of dead stuff, probably some moist areas that, various macroinvertebrates and stuff can use to burrow down in, and their dormant season, whatever. I'm not a biologist, but here's getting over to the other side. This is where the erosion is really bad. There was quite a bit of drop from up there down to about this point here. And a couple of years ago, I did a little bit of work in the wintertime when there wasn't much else to do. Dropped some coarse woody debris down in there, and had a profound effect. It really, it raised the bottom of the stream bed up, but getting down further, there's such an elevation drop down through there that erosion is a huge concern. There's some mineral soil right there where the bank's just sloughing off. I avoided cutting a lot of trees before. I didn't want to get too aggressive because I was thinking, the roots are holding the ground together, and yes, they are, but once they start to get undermined, those trees will just fall over. There's a stump right here that fell out, and then it just takes, half the bank with it. So my attitude right now is cut a lot of this stuff out, get some sunlight down in here, and get some shrubs and stuff going beyond, greenbrier is basically all that grows in here at the ground level. It's so damn dark in here in the midsummer. It's ridiculous. So, like I said before, a lot of these trees are just dying. They weren't getting enough sunlight. There was not a lot of air circulation through here. This is not healthy. It might be natural in the sense that, before human beings came along, there were wildfires, there were glaciers, there were, things that would clear a whole patch of land out and everything would start over. And this would have been a stage at some point that isn't perfectly natural, but it's not necessarily a productive stage. And, with all those animals that would have been trotting around down here 150 years ago, they would have ripped a lot of the vegetation out and caused a lot of erosion. Then when the land was abandoned, animals, were no longer, rooting around down here, ripping out a lot of the ground vegetation that would otherwise have kind of held the banks back. This was allowed to grow up into a brush field. So, for a period of time, there wouldn't have been a lot of large trees. And probably for a time period, I'm guessing here, I don't know, but some of this erosion was probably slowed down considerably because of all of that vegetation that was holding the ground together. Eventually, some of these trees grew up large enough to snuff out the light, and a lot of those shrubs and things like that died. And the ephemerals, kind of petered out. And there's really little left. I mean, there's a handful of ferns that'll grow down here, but not much else. Really not much else. So, I almost want to say that things have started to accelerate in terms of erosion again. So all I'm trying to do is to open things up and kind of strike some kind of a balance, I don't know if it's savanna-like conditions, but I wish I could find some documentation about this type of timber management, if you want to call it that. I'm not interested in timber. I'm interested in, wildlife. Health. Fucking fix it. So, up through there, it's extremely dense. That's something I'll probably attack at some point, but that's getting further up into the tributary. and try to spread this water out. Get it up out of the channel. Spread it out. Get it in the ground. You know, make these springs run year-round if possible. That's the goal. So, in the meantime, the only thing I get out of this is some wood chips and a little bit of firewood. But for the most part, I'm just doing this for the satisfaction of I don't know, giving a shit. I don't know. It's the only thing that makes me happy. So, it's a beautiful thing. It's a fucking mess. I'm not done yet. I'm gonna clean up a little bit, get some of that tree tops out, and probably chip a lot of that stuff. But if I don't, it'll be fine. It'll provide some shade, you know, slow down some evaporation and stuff, keep some nice wet pools, and some creature will decide that's where it wants to be. So that's fine too. But I'm only one guy. Trying to spread myself out a little too thin. All right, hey, done rambling. Thanks for watching.